Good morning, Europe. It's Thursday, April the 21st. Thanks for joining us. These are your top stories.
Ukraine proposes a special round of talks with Russia over Mariupol. As civilian evacuations from the besieged port city stall, and Ukrainian forces knuckle down. South Africans affected by the deadly floods begin rebuilding their homes. Thousands of troops continue search and rescue efforts whilst delivering much needed supplies and repairing infrastructure. And incumbent French President Emmanuel Macron faces off against Marine Le Pen in the only televised debate before the final election vote. The evacuation of civilians has stalled in Mariupol as fighting continued to intensify in the east and south of Ukraine. The number escaping was lower than the 6,000 people expected, according to the Donetsk governor. The city is close to falling, but Ukrainian defenders refuse to give up. So far, none have accepted the ultimatum given by Russian forces. Instead, Kyiv is proposing for a special round of talks with Moscow to resolve the conflict in the besieged city. After meeting with the President of the European Council, Charles Michel, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine's partners now better understand the needs of the country in the way of financial, military and political support.
I am very pleased to say, with cautious optimism, that our partners started to understand our needs better, understand what exactly we need, and when exactly we need all this. Not in weeks, not in a month, but immediately. Right now, as Russia is trying to intensify its attacks.
Support for Ukraine is not only expressed by Europe. Canada's Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland tweeted its solidarity. Freeland's tweet followed finance ministers from Canada, the UK, US and France leaving the room when Russian delegates to the G20 summit in Washington yesterday took to the floor in a joint symbolic move.
The Kremlin says it has presented Kyiv with a list of Russian demands as part of peace talks. President Putin's spokesman says it contains absolutely clear, elaborate wording and that Russia is waiting for a response. According to the Russian Foreign Ministry, the paper was given to Ukraine on the 15th of April. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he has not seen or heard about any such document. And on Wednesday, the Russian Defense Ministry reported the first successful test launch of a new intercontinental ballistic missile, which it says is capable of carrying a nuclear charge. Russian state TV claims it is the most powerful missile in the world with the longest target range. And President Putin says that this Samad missile will ensure Russia's security and will make those who try to threaten Russia think twice. The Pentagon says that it was notified in advance and that it sees the test as routine and not a threat to the United States. Galina Polonskaya, Euronews from Paris.
Borodyanka, some 50 kilometers away from the Ukrainian capital, is but a shadow of itself. It was one of the most heavily bombed towns in the region of Kyiv. Some 50 bodies have been recovered from the rubble so far. Hundreds more are expected to be found. In different parts of the town, bodies are also being exhumed from temporary graves. 9 people were buried in these fields next to a local hospital. Alexander's father is among the bodies, headless.
There was shelling. In the evening he told us that he would go and stop the Russian forces. He spoke Russian. He's from Russia. And he went to stop the column. He stood in front of the armored vehicles and they just ran over him.
Nadia lost her 34-year-old son, Konstantin. He was a construction worker.
He was walking home. It was on the 28th of February. They shot him with an automatic gun, and he didn't lie down quickly enough. It went through his chest and stomach. We buried him on the 15th of March because we couldn't do it sooner. He stayed at the morgue. The commander didn't allow us to bury him, so we buried him on the 15th of March here, in the garden.
The head of the national police in the Kyiv region is unequivocal.
I think it is possible and necessary to talk about a genocide of the Ukrainian people. It's another example of war crimes of the Russian Federation when they shoot civilian people. These people were not military and not territorial defense. They were simply civilians and they were shot in the street. This is against all international conventions and international law, which prohibits such acts against civilians.
Сина моя, прости мене, сина.
Well, these are very difficult moments, and it's happening every day. More than 1,000 civilians have been found so far in the region of Kyiv, and the police say they're making such findings daily. So obviously the figures are going to rise. I'm Valerie Goria from Borodyanka for Euronews.
German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock continues her tour of the three Baltic states today as she travels on to Estonia. Kicking off her three-day tour in Riga on Wednesday, she pledged greater support for Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia. But her visit comes amid growing criticism of Germany in recent days, both at home and abroad, for not sending heavy weapons to Ukraine. After meeting with her Latvian counterpart in Riga on Wednesday, Baerbock said Germany had delivered anti-tank missiles, which the government hadn't talked about in public, so that the deliveries could be carried out quickly and securely. She also said that the German government is not against sending armoured vehicles either. The obstacle on that front, though, is the fact that German military doesn't currently have all that much more to offer, and that's due to years of declining spending on military and defence. As an alternative of sorts, she said Germany would train Ukrainian soldiers to use and maintain advanced weapon systems, which Ukraine has received from other allied countries. Energy is also on the agenda during these talks, but it still seems that on the German side an embargo of Russian gas is very much off the cards, with the potential economic repercussions still deemed too large here in Berlin. More talks are being held in Estonia today, which has also voiced criticism of Germany's seemingly passive response, but the sense of urgency from both the Baltic states and of course also from Ukrainian officials is certainly increasing. Kate Brady, Euronews, Berlin.
Victims of the devastating flooding in South Africa's province of KwaZulu-Natal have started to rebuild their homes and their lives. 448 people were killed by the floods, and more than 40,000 were displaced in mudslides caused by the prolonged heavy rains.
Everything is destroyed, including my children's bed, which you can see lying on the ground. We are basically left with nothing.
Visiting some of the flooded areas, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa pledged the €61 million allocated to flood victims will not be lost to corruption.
Seeing our president visiting various areas affected by the floods was encouraging. He showed that he sympathizes with the people. We trust that we will get assistance as promised.
Authorities have deployed 10,000 troops to help with the continued search and rescue efforts, deliver food and water to flood victims, and rebuild collapsed roads and bridges. President Ramaphosa blamed climate change for the unprecedented rains, the heaviest in at least 60 years.
This is Good Morning Europe. We'll have plenty more after the break.